Hey guys, I am Dr. Kim Sage. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is part of my series on healing your attachment wounds and disturbances. And I'm really hopeful that through each of these videos I've been posting, you will come to a deeper understanding of yourself and sort of how you're wired, and hopefully a path to understanding what you need to work on in order to heal your heart and life and relationships. If you are new here, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell, and that way you'll get notified when I post new videos. Okay, let's get that out of the way. I'm so excited to share this video today. It really is about how to connect and soothe your body. The whole concepts around the vagus nerve stimulation and polyvagal theory. I am going to be talking more and more about this, but we always hear things like breathing and ice and blah, 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 and we're going to go into that. But we're really going to go in today to actual exercises and activities that fall under the category of polyvagal theory in therapy. So many of these I don't even always have time or even able to do with my own patients because we're dealing with content and processing, and so I really hope this video is a great supplement to whatever work you're doing. But understanding that the heart of the attachment experiences you had in those early years are like this with your nervous system. The nervous system really does set the stage for how attachment plays out and how it shows up inside our bodies. So before I go into these exercises, this video will probably be a bit longer, but I do want to just say a few things about the nervous system. Remember that as little biological creatures, we come out, and at all times we need some way to detect, are we safe, right? Is there a lion or tiger or bear, oh my, or is there, or am I safe? Can I attach? And so we're always, like a reflex, our bodies are reading, the room, basically, meaning a person's tone of voice, their nonverbal communication, their eye engagement. Are they looking at us? Are they not? You know how you can go into a store and just get a vibe from somebody and it just feels weird, but they have done nothing. And maybe they look relatively okay. It's not like there's a big red flag saying this person is dangerous, but you get that vibe. And oftentimes it's a combination of learning to read, obviously, in our story, maybe unsafe people, our intuition, which really pairs with our nervous system. It is that thing that is really below awareness. And so the goal, even though it is below awareness, is to teach us how to recognize when we are in one of the three main activated states of our nervous system. Quick reminder, the first one is ventral vagal. That is a place of connection, kind of like we are right now. Hopefully you're somewhat safe and able to hear me and take in information, or just be connected to yourself. You just feel sort of okay, I'm good, I'm calm, or I can engage in the world. The next step on the ladder is often called the sympathetic, as you think about the sympathetic nervous system, but it really is the mobilized part. The part of you that realizes, okay, I'm sitting outside, let's say by the cave, and I look over and I see that in the distance there's a tiger. And in that moment I have to figure out what I'm going to do next, right? I might even actually, worst case scenario, but in some cases freezing is the next step down, a more dorsal vagal collapsed state, a disconnected state, like when animals play dead. Ideally though, we really want to first start with, what can I do? What do I need to do? And then sometimes when that doesn't work and or it's just not safe to do anything, we might go into that disconnected state. Now, outside of lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, we are running up and down this sort of this ladder all of the time, right? We're not always going to be in ventral vagal, always calm, always chill, and it wouldn't be good for us. We need to be able to mobilize, and there are times when we need to be able to sort of collapse, maybe and slow down, but we can get stuck in those states. And when you're really in them, in the dorsal vagal collapse state, it doesn't usually feel very good to our bodies, right? Nor does that really energized state. So we have to kind of dip up and down, and we might get stuck in one of those more. So for example, if you had more anxious attachment type parents, they were sort of meeting you at the nervous system level all of the time, or more of the time, I should say, not all of the time, in that sympathetic state, right? They were fearful, they were stressed, they were anxious, they were activated, they were there, they were not there, and you had to respond to that. And as a result, we're often hypervigilant when we have this part of our style. That's what happens. If you had parents who were more avoidant, that kind of can correspond to the more collapsed state, right? They were disengaged. They weren't able to be very mirroring and attuning towards you. And so you learn to regulate yourself. And then you learn a bunch of other things, right, about relationships. But the point is, if you come out into the world and, it's just sort of this very disengaged dynamic, your nervous system has to respond to that. So ideally, we would want to be met by landing in a nervous system in ourselves and others that feels like ventral vagal more often than not. It's safe. There's space there. There's room. I don't have to mobilize or immobilize all of the time. So the goal of this video is to help you when you realize that you are in a more activated sort of sympathetic state or dorsal vagal state, some ways to understand how those show up in your body, how to recognize them, and what to do with them. So get your pen and paper out, grab your journal. We're going to dive super deep now. So I know that you probably hear a lot about how to calm and soothe your body. If you're on TikTok, you hear it a lot. I'm not sure how much you hear it on YouTube, but the suggestions you often get are things like, hold some ice, get in some cold air, put a damp cloth on your chest or your forehead or over your eyes. Do breathing. Breathing, as I mentioned in a few videos ago, where you really want to exhale longer than inhaling if you're trying to sort of slow down and calm down. And the inverse is true. If you need to kind of get more mobilized, you would breathe in longer and exhale shorter. Of course, things like meditation, guided imagery, mindfulness, yoga, exercise, all of those can be really helpful to help you get your body in a more sort of calm and soothed state based on all of those good neurochemicals we get and how being mindful and present helps rewire the brain. All of that stuff is great. So I would definitely say don't get rid of those. But let's talk about a few other ways you can supplement and go even deeper into understanding your nervous system. The first thing you want to do is to learn to map your nervous system. And what I mean by that is by using words that really feel true for you to give a replacement name to words like ventral vagal, sympathetic, and dorsal vagal. So choose 3 words that help you recognize, I'm in my activated state. That would be like a sympathetic, or my stressed out anxious state. Or, I'm in my super collapsed state. I'm just, maybe it's the words like unmotivated, or I feel frozen, or exhausted. And maybe my word for ventral vagal is, I feel really calm right now, or I'm vibing right now. I know it's super cringy, but figure out a word, right? My kids are just horrified right now. But figure out a word for each of those to help you begin to identify what state you're in. And the way you're going to notice that is learning to observe what's happening in your body. And so the next time you feel anxious or stressed, try to notice, well, do I feel tight in my chest? Does my head start to hurt? When I ask patients, where do you feel that in your body? And I know if you guys go to therapy, we ask you this, but we're trying to help you connect to your nervous system, to your body, to what's happening. So start paying attention to those cues. How do I know? If I'm unmotivated, for me, I tend to really have 2 switches, on, and I'm kind of overworking, kind of from a place of fear from my own childhood. I'm going and going and going. And then also because I have autoimmune, I can collapse and I'm on the couch. I don't want to move. It's sort of hard for me to find that middle ground sometimes because I just start going. And I have to obviously work on that. But those are the states. Ideally, I would want to be integrating more of that in-between state, right? And so because of your childhood and trauma, it might be really hard for you. This ventral vagal is probably going to be the hardest to really lean into and to learn. So map the system, give each of those dynamics, or those states, I should say, names, and then begin to start recognizing what it feels like in your body when you are having these experiences. That is the first exercise. Now, the next one is called, it's really about anchoring yourself into ventral vagal, or let's just call it my chill or calm state, right? How do I want to be mindful of getting there and staying there? And so we're going to use steps that include who, what, where, and when, basically, okay? And Deb Dana calls these ventral vagal anchors. So they're anchoring you to these calm states, right? And so the first thing is to look at who. Reflect on people in your life. It could be animals, it could be, living or non-living, books, in terms of characters, anything or anyone that helps bring a sense of calm and sort of soothingness to your life. You want to think about who makes you feel safe and connected to yourself. Like I say this all the time, but like Oprah can do that for me. She just has this, especially back in the day growing up, this very calming and soothing way about her. And then the next word is what. Think about what brings you alive in that ventral vagal state. And so it could be little things. Maybe it's just making a little snack for yourself that feels like a treat, but even it's maybe a healthy treat. It could be petting your dog. It could be an action. It could be taking a walk, or it could be surrounding yourself in some space in your home, we'll come back to, that you feel is like your little corner of soothingness or heaven. The next one is where, and that goes together, but thinking about everyday places in your life that feel more soothing, more calm. Oftentimes at the end of the day, I will just get in my bed with my laptop. After I've worked all day and I'm so tired, I'll take a shower and I'll just get in my bed. And it just feels so safe there with my laptop, and I'll binge watch. This is my total jam, which is the Great British Bake Off. It is what I watch. I will rewatch seasons when I just don't want to be in my damn head, because I cannot, I'm checking my TikTok account, or I should be responding, or videos need to be loaded, or the dishwasher. And when I just want to let myself stay kind of soothed and calm, I will get in my bed and watch the British Bake Off before I go to sleep. No surprise there if you know how much I love baking and how it connects to my own trauma, which I'm still going to come back to and talk more about. The next one is when. When do you notice you feel these connections to this soothing part of yourself? And try to be mindful of the parts of day where you're more likely to be able to do that. Sort of taking those experiences in and thinking about, when is it easier for you to do that? For some of us, it's sunrise or sunset, or maybe it's during your lunch break, sitting in your car, putting on some music, right? Also really quickly, singing and humming and listening to music can also help connect you to that ventral vagal state. And then you want to kind of put these things together in a little portfolio to remind yourself, maybe on sticky notes or in your journal, like really going through that who, what, where, and when, and connecting them all so that when you feel like, I don't know what to do, you can go back to those. All right, the next exercise is about using, this is actually really interesting. It's more of a creative activity to do in your journal. But basically what you want to do is use the letters of your name to describe who you are when you are in a dorsal state, in a sympathetic state, and in a ventral vagal state, okay? And then create several name descriptions for each state and compare the effects. So you want to use the letters of your name to describe who you are when you're in each state, right? So in dorsal, I'm sad, I'm collapsed, I'm unmotivated, I feel maybe hopeless, or I feel unworthy. And maybe in my sympathetic state, I feel anxious, stressed. Maybe I feel a little powerful and connected to my energy. And in my ventral vagal state, I feel loving, peaceful, calm. And so I would try to, just get creative. You can doodle with this one. You can also use the letters of the alphabet to describe who you are. Don't get crazy with it, but just like in some creative way. And you might be drawing art around it. In fact, actually doing art, like an art journal, can be really healing too. So this is it's kind of like even doing mandalas. where you draw the circle and then you start to fill it in, or coloring activities. It's a way for you to like just get out of your head, right? And get mindful and present in the moment. But then in this exercise, you're also really working to continuously identify very clearly when you're in these different states, and then you're anchoring back to ways to get yourself to a more ventral, calm, chill kind of state. Okay, the next exercise is to work on tracking every day in your journal how often you go into these states, right? And so it's kind of like a daily mood journal. One of the things that Deb has in her book is like a pie chart, and she divides it up into sections and like 3 big slices. But depending upon which slice you found yourself in more that day, you would draw the circle, and if you were like, yeah, I was really activated today. So maybe 3/4 of that circle was activation, and it was that sympathetic state. And maybe the other dorsal and ventral were 50-50 of what was left, right? I mean, it really depends on you, but you might start to track and then just make little notes of like, well, what happened that day? Why was I more in my ventral state? Why was I more in a sympathetic state? What were the factors that contributed, maybe, and it's hard to know, right? It could be your diet, lack of exercise. For me, autoimmune can just knock me and my daughter out of nowhere, but certain things will help me get out of it if I can. So it's kind of like a mood chart, but you're really, you can do it any way you want. Maybe you just write the words and you write percentages. You can draw like a line and do like a spectrum, but be mindful of those states, and then see if you can notice any patterns about, yeah, I noticed that on Mondays, like I'm really in a very dorsal shut down state. And so what do I want to do about that, right? Or the weekends, I tend to feel much more ventral, much more chill and connected. That would make sense. But how can I incorporate more of a little bit of that during my week? The next one is called Finding Glimmers. And glimmers are really just what they sound like. I like to think of them as little fireflies or little dragonflies or little June bugs. That's a southern thing, right? But just like June bugs can be annoying, but just like little pockets of light, little flashes of light, where in that moment, it may just be a fleeting moment. I felt connected there. That felt good right there. What just happened? Or, if I look over and my dog just looks so cute, right? In that moment, it's like, oh my God, they're so cute. My daughter will say, look at the dogs, like all of the time. I'm like, I freaking know they're cute. But that's a glimmer, right? Or I really love to walk across from my house. I live across from a beautiful beach. And my house is pretty little, so it's nice to get out. And I struggle because I have autoimmune and I get really tired at the end of the day. But the beach, when it's not daylight savings time, is so beautiful. And so I really feel ventral vagal state there. But maybe I'm just driving by it to go somewhere and I look over and I see the sunset. Or I look at the sky and I'm like, oh God, that's so beautiful tonight, right? That happens everywhere. So it's trying to notice and set an intention to start to try to notice glimmers. Our brain is wired for negativity. And so I can look out that window, or I can look at my house and see the 50 things that I hate, that I don't like, that aren't good or dirty or messy or whatever that I want to change. But it's so much harder to find but you know what? I love that lamp I found at that flea market. Or I love when I have my cookies sitting on a tray. It just feels so homey, right? So you figure out where your glimmers are and try to notice them and have gratitude for them. Just like a moment where you're like, oh, yeah, that was good. Thank you, right? It's about cultivating that glimmer self inside so that when you're activated and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, you start to develop this really strong ability to understand yourself and what helps bring you more into that light. Maybe it's light. Maybe light is the word, standing in your light when you're in ventral vagal, right? And then you might try to make a note of those in your journal and try to track when those occur and what's happening, and really try to build up a well of understanding about yourself, about, don't forget to focus on your glimmers, and here they are. And then the last one is to make a music playlist of the songs, the music. Maybe it's, Broadway. I don't know. Maybe it's classical. Maybe it's, 70s rock, or it's current music. Maybe it's Taylor Swift's new Red album. I don't know, guys. But like, where do you feel like, oh, I feel so connected to myself and it feels really good? I would say that singing along, whether you're a good singer or not, can be helpful, even humming. Be mindful of how much sad music. My kids always laugh that I have a ton of sad music, but I just like, I like Adele. I like a lot of stuff like that. And I'm, not young, so I have this collection of music that I like. But if I'm not careful on some playlists, it might be like all down. So you want to try to find ways. Maybe you make a playlist for each state, right? When you're just like, I'm struggling, I need to honor, maybe you're in dorsal and you need to honor your sadness and you just need to have some tears. But then you want to flip it to, a more activated ventral vagal state, or even activated state, to get your energy up, because you're like, I've already cried and now I've got to get off the sofa and like go for a walk. But you might make a playlist for each state. And I would especially encourage you to try to find a playlist that really helps you get and stay in ventral vagal most. And actually, the one last thing is to think about, and I know we've been hearing about this forever, going back to Oprah, but work on your gratitude. Maybe it's just gratitude for glimmers, but working on where you can be more mindful of noticing what is good, what you do appreciate, what you're blessed to have in whatever universal way you see that, or lucky, it has nothing to do with religion necessarily, but maybe it does for you. It's just about trying to remember, okay, you know what, like a lot of things are bad, but this thing is actually, this moment was good, and cultivating more and more of that in your life will help you work towards being in a ventral vagal state more often than not. So I hope these were actionable items you can do. If you guys like this video, I have a lot more of these exercises to share and ways of understanding this concept, but I really do hope it was helpful. Please be mindful that healing your attachment wounds, like I said, is deeply wired to healing your body. And so if you're triggered in relationships because of your attachment style, your body is triggered. And so we want to work on healing those concepts together, right? That's kind of how we get there. It really is one day at a time. So please feel free, as usual, to share your feedback and thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be posting my next video in the next day or so. I have a hair appointment tomorrow, finally, to get my roots done, so I probably will not post a video tomorrow, but I'll be posting Sunday or Monday the final protocol for this attachment disturbance healing that you can use in a kind of meditative, guided imagery way. And then we will just keep on going on all of these topics on my channel. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care and stay safe, and I will see you soon.